The video shows cops recording a residential street. But what is going on here, and why is the officer recording everything? Stay tuned to find out. Later, it was revealed that the video showed undercover cops correcting pedestrian offenses and investigating a case. James McLennis, who operates the Pinellas County Sheriff's Channel, provided the content. The interaction involved several deputies from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office parked on a residential street while conducting an investigation near a nearby residence.
Just all the undercover police cars. Police sheriffs at this house. Undercover.
What are you doing here? I don't know, take a video of
And-
that. Like that.
And this one here does not look like a police vehicle.
Exactly what you doing?
McLennis begins recording the interaction as he walks in the middle of the street, arguing that there are no sidewalks and that the officers have blocked the side of the road. He further tells an officer that engaging in the act of recording a video in this situation falls under the protection of the First Amendment, as it is considered a constitutionally protected activity.
Hey, sir. You know what else says that?
ID on you?
I don't need ID.
Yes, you do need ID.
No, I don't need to ID.
If you're coming into the middle of our investigation, you do.
Actually, this is the middle of the street, and I'm
And
walking
you're
on a
not
public
supposed
street.
to be in the middle of the street, so that's a violation.
Actually, there's no sidewalks here, so it's not.
You cannot be in the middle of the street.
Well, you notice you're blocking the way on the side of the street.
All right, let me get a pad. You have ID at all?
During the encounter, McLennis asserts that he's not required to provide identification to the officers. However, the officers argue that since he is intervening in the middle of their investigation, he must provide identification. McLennis counters their claim by stating he's simply walking along a public street, which lacks sidewalks. He points out that he's not obstructing traffic since there is ample space on the side of the street.
I don't have to show ID. I have not committed a crime.
Did you drive here?
No.
But you have to ID who you are.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Under Florida statutes, we're not an ID upon demand state.
McLennis maintains that he is not obligated to present ID since he's not committed any crime. However, the officer insists that McLennis must provide identification, even questioning if he drove to the location. McLennis continues to assert his position, stating he is not legally required to provide identification, citing that Florida statutes do not classify the state as an ID upon demand jurisdiction.
Am I being detained?
Hey. Are you writing him a ticket?
No, man.
You do understand when there's not a sidewalk, there's a certain direction that you need to walk on the street, right? You can't just walk down the middle.
Well, when you have all the cars blocking the side of the road, it makes it kind of difficult.
Okay, well, guess what, Perry Mason? Since you're so good on the
Well,
First
are you a
Amendment and the
police officer?
Constitution and all that-
As another officer joins the conversation, they inquire whether McLennis intends to issue a ticket. They then explain that when there's no sidewalk available, there is a specific direction for pedestrians to walk onto the street, emphasizing that walking in the middle is not permissible. McLennis responds by highlighting the challenge of following the designated walking direction when all the cars are blocking the side of the road.
You're so good on the
What's-
First
are you a
Amendment and the
police officer?
Constitution and all that.
I'm asking you to
Read the
identify yourself.
statutes. Excuse me?
I'm asking you to identify yourself. Are you a police officer?
Yes, I am.
Can you please give me your name and badge number?
No.
Are you refusing to identify yourself?
What, is there a Florida state statute that says I must?
I think it's are you a Pinellas County Sheriff?
Yes, I am.
McLennis requests the officer to identify themselves by providing their name and badge number. The officer declines to comply with the request. McLennis then questions whether the officer is refusing to identify themselves and asks if there's a Florida state statute that mandates such identification. The officer suggests that it is likely the case, but McLennis inquires specifically about the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office policy regarding citizen requests for officer identification. The officer does not provide a clear response.
How am I supposed to file a complaint against you?
Okay. What do you want to file a complaint
No.
for? Because if you want it, I'll give it to you.
I do want it. I've
Okay,
asked for
but
it.
let me finish my train of thought
Go
first
ahead.
before you interrupt me with all your Perry Mason stuff.
McLennis continues to express his frustration and asks the officer how he's supposed to file a complaint if needed. The officer responds by asking for clarification on the reason for the complaint. The officer then asks McLennis if he understands that there is a Florida state statute prohibiting walking in the middle of the road, seeking a simple yes or no answer to his question. As the two other officers join the conversation, they question McLennis' statement that they are not blocking the road. McLennis responds by reiterating that the officers are obstructing the pathway on the side of the road.
How are we blocking you?
Exactly.
You are
I guess
blocking
that
the
pretty much answers your
pathway on the
question,
side of
doesn't
the side of the road.
can I do to help
This
you?
is the intimidation that the Pinellas County Sheriffs try and use if you exercise your First Amendment activity.
No,
They surround
actually,
you, accuse you of crimes, refuse to identify
It's not a
themselves,
crime, it's a
intimidate
civil
yourself.
infraction.
Why aren't you continuing with your investigation? Why are you out here bothering me?
He suggests that this behavior is an attempt by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to intimidate individuals who exercise their First Amendment rights. McClennis further asserts that the officers surround individuals, accuse them of crimes, and refuse to identify themselves, creating an environment of intimidation.
Here, it's not a pedestrian violation, but nice try.
You're right. You're the expert. You know, I've only spent 20 years doing this job. You're the expert, though, right?
After 20 years, you still
What
think it's
exactly
necessary?
statute is it? Do you know
After
what
20
statute
after
it is?
20 years, you think it's actually necessary to come out in the street and bother people who are walking by?
You can't walk in the middle of the road.
And when you have the street blocked,
Street's
the
not
side
blocked.
of the side of the road blocked,
Street's not blocked.
you have the side of the road blocked.
Street's not blocked.
Sir,
Yeah,
Street's not
shine,
blocked.
shine your phone that way, because I want to make sure that you see this as well, that this is on video.
yeah, I'll shine the phone.
So from here, all the way through, past the area that you actually walk through,
McClennis questions why the officers are bothering him instead of continuing with their investigation. He asserts he was simply walking with his camera in front of him and questions if the officers have an issue with that.
see this as well, that this is on video.
Yeah, I'll shine the phone.
So from here, all the way through, past the area that you actually walk through, the street is not blocked.
This
The
side of the street is
vehicles are on the
blocked.
curb, but you actually walk. So how is that actually blocking
This side of the street is
streets?
blocked.
Okay.
McClennis argues there was no civil infraction committed on his part, emphasizing that walking in the middle of the road is not a pedestrian violation when the side of the road is blocked and there are no sidewalks available.
By walking down the middle of the street and
Is there
conducting a
anything
First
else that you
Amendment
would like to
activity,
talk about? Is there anything else you would like
I didn't want to talk to you, any of you, in the first place.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You can leave now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The officer sarcastically remarks that McClennis must be the expert, despite their 20 years of experience on the job. McClennis responds by pointing out that even after 20 years, the officer still believes it is necessary to come out onto the street and bother people who are merely walking by. As another officer approaches McClennis, they ask him to shine his phone in a particular direction to show him that the street's not blocked beyond the area where he walked. The officer argues that since McClennis walked on the curb, it did not hinder the side of the street. McClennis reiterates there are no sidewalks available, emphasizing the lack of an alternative path. The officer responds by stating McClennis is impeding their ongoing investigation.
I still can't walk down this side of the street,
asked you and told you to leave. Leave now.
so I have to leave the street.
Leave this investigation right now.
So where is the investigation? Where's the blue line? Is it over here? Is it over here? Is it over here? Is she impeding the investigation too? I'm just curious.
McClennis insists he still cannot walk on the side of the street. He questions the whereabouts of the investigation and sarcastically asks if the blue line indicating police presence extends to different areas. The implication is that the officers are unnecessarily impeding his right to walk freely. Mr. McClennis continues to videotape the police vehicles as he carefully left the location, having no further problems. He then attempted to register complaints against the deputies involved. Mr. McClennis started the process by requesting public documents to find out who the deputies were. Unfortunately, his request was refused, and the needed information was not given to him. On September 29, 2019, Deputy James and Deputy Zhang from the Shelby County Sheriff's Office in Tennessee, a potentially dangerous engagement unfolded due to their reckless actions. The incident began when the officers responded to a call regarding a package theft based on doorbell camera footage. The complainant, Mr. Aaron Branch's girlfriend's mother, alleged that a neighbor had taken a package from her porch. Upon arriving at the scene, Deputy James and Deputy Zhang engage with the witnesses, specifically Ms. Vernita Eccles, who identified the neighbor across the street as a suspect. She further mentioned that the neighbor might have a bench warrant for her arrest. Within minutes, the officers made their way across the street to confront the neighbor, seemingly without validating the claims made by the callers. Surprisingly, Deputy James immediately announced his intention to arrest the neighbor without properly investigating the situation. It was during this engagement that Mr. Branch, the original recorder of the incident, arrived on the scene while openly carrying a firearm on his hip. He questioned the officers about the package's ownership, leading to Deputy James ordering him to disarm for officer safety. However, Tennessee law permits citizens to bear arms for self-defense, and there's no requirement to disarm themselves around officers unless there's a legitimate safety concern.
Okay, now that box that came off her front porch, did y'all see a name on that box by any chance?
We didn't get a chance to look at it because it was calling before we got a chance to.
Now, if we show you guys what the box looked like, how you doing, sir? Are you an officer, sir?
Put your hands up, man.
I don't need to put my hands up.
This is for officer safety.
I don't need to put my
This is for
hands
officer
up.
safety.
Hold on,
I'm telling you right now. Put your hands up.
Don't
Put your hands up, dude.
sir.
The situation escalated as Deputy James unholstered his firearm, which Mr. Branch rightly challenged. This action was unnecessary and potentially dangerous escalation, as Mr. Branch was not displaying any behavior that indicated he posed a threat to the officers. Deputy James cited a state statute to justify his actions, but his interpretation was flawed considering the circumstances. Furthermore, the officers threatened to arrest Mr. Branch and his girlfriend for disorderly conduct, despite being on private property.
The proper procedures, you're supposed to ask if he has his handgun permit. You don't know. Okay. Yes, I do.
Hey.
Yes, I do. We went to the class. Yes, I do.
I don't need to keep my hands up. I haven't committed a crime.
Yes, put your gun away.
I have
You
not
ask
officer
to see
safety.
his- you ask to see his permit.
Ma'am.
Okay, can he just step in the house then?
No, I need that car.
We're not talking to you,
I'm
man.
in my car right now.
We're not talking to you right now.
You asked to see.
We're not talking to you
Okay, we'll
right
go in the
now.
house then.
I don't need to go in there. I haven't committed a crime.
You have a
I
permit.
haven't committed. I do have a
Why
crime.
is your gun?
Where's your permit?
Amber, record Officer James. We're gonna make a start today. I'm gonna make a start at
Come
James
on.
today.
There's
I'm gonna make
no
you a
threat.
start, James. I'm gonna make
Let me
you
see
a
your
start
permit.
today.
Step
Okay,
away, man. We're
you're
not
right.
talking to you.
Okay.
Let me see your permit.
Okay.
Keep this arm up. Let me see your
I
permit.
don't need to keep anything. I can do whatever the
This officer, no sir.
Do whatever.
Okay.
Do what you do. Do your
Police
job.
officers
Do your
are-
job.
He got the permit.
Police officers are in your presence.
The First Amendment protects speech on private property, and the officer's threats infringed upon this right. Legal precedents underline the special protection for personal liberties within one's home. The officer's subsequent behavior with an unidentified woman, initially detained due to the reported theft, raises Fourth Amendment concerns. While reasonable suspicion justified her initial detention, the officers extended her handcuffed detention in a police cruiser even after she provided evidence that could have dispelled their suspicions. Courts have ruled that such extended detentions could transform investigative stops into arrest, violating the Fourth Amendment.
There it is.
That's not, that's not
You go to
how
law
law
school?
works.
You go
I did go to law school.
Okay, you passed the bar?
I did
So
pass
you're
the
a
bar.
lawyer?
I am a lawyer.
Okay.
I don't have to
Just
disarm
go in the
myself.
house.
That's not how the
Just
law
go in the
works.
house.
Come here.
I'm not
Come here.
going anywhere with
Come
you.
here.
Just go
I
in
have
the
not
house.
committed a crime. They know I haven't committed a crime.
Okay,
They know I have not
Everybody
committed a
trying to
crime.
help.
Amber, I want you to record them. I'm gonna make stars out of both of them. James
ahead.
and Zing. I'm gonna make big stars out of them. I love tyrants. I love tyrants like yourself.
Either
Property.
you step inside or you go to
I'm
jail.
a private. I'm a law-abiding citizen.
5, 4,
I'm not your child.
Wait, hold on, wait.
Child.
Yeah,
All right, man, come on.
go on, go
I'm
on.
not a child.
No, because
Bro, you're not scaring nobody with that fucking permit.
question or whatever.
You're not talking about.
Despite these issues, Mr. Branch managed to de-escalate the situation through assertive dialogue. He challenged the officers' actions while maintaining composure and asserting his rights. Eventually, the officers released the detained woman, but not without her being held for an excessive duration. Now, let's move on to the next investigation. In an incident that occurred on July 3, 2021, officers from the Elkhart Police Department were called to respond to a disturbance at a hotel in Elkhart, Indiana. The officers stopped 3 teenagers whom they believed to be responsible for the disturbance and demanded that they identify themselves. As tensions began to rise, one of the bystanders at the scene started recording the encounter.
It doesn't matter. Talking about us. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He doesn't want you guys back here. And to verify that, I need your names so that if you do show up again, you can then go to jail. Okay? So what is your name? Before I put you all in handcuffs and take you all to jail. Okay. Then you're gonna.
I ain't going to jail,
Okay. What is your name?
Y'all ain't gonna ride, man.
We do. We waiting. You like it?
Despite the potential escalation, the officers did not conduct a thorough investigation into the situation. According to best practices for police interactions, responding officers are expected to perform comprehensive preliminary investigations, including interviewing witnesses to accurately determine suspects. However, the officers in this case seemed uninterested in investigating further and instead continued to insist that the teenagers provide their identification.
Because we can't verify that you are the parent or guardian. We can't do that. So
Well,
again, I'm going to ask again before you all go in.
Does that make sense?
What is your name?
Like, we can't just release
Well, hold on. Let me
it.
talk to him. Let's talk to him.
But if they weren't part of the confusion, then I don't understand what's going on.
I told you multiple times.
The boys and bystanders maintained that they were not involved in the initial disturbance, but the officers did not seem willing to consider this possibility. The officers' conduct raised questions about their failure to follow proper investigation procedures, even though there is no legal obligation for police officers to conduct in-depth investigations.
You're not in trouble, man.
But if you keep playing this game,
I want him to come out here before I say anything else.
They gone. They went out the back door. They went out the back door.
No, I'm talking about the manager that said that we was because he know it's not us.
No, it wasn't them.
Exactly. That's why I want him to come out here.
He doesn't want to come out here right now. Okay,
Man,
he has a job to do,
which
is inside. No, because he doesn't want you inside. He doesn't want you on the
He don't
property.
know it.
The bystander recording the incident questioned the officer's authority to detain the teenagers based on Indiana's trespassing laws. He argued that since the teenagers had not refused to leave the property when asked, they could not be considered trespassing. The officer countered by citing Indiana trespassing law, which allows charges to be brought against individuals who knowingly or intentionally refuse to leave private property after being asked to do so by the property owner or their agent. However, legal precedent indicated that a police officer who is neither the property owner nor an agent of the owner cannot create a trespass violation merely by asking someone to leave and then arresting them for noncompliance. In this instance, the officers were acting in their capacity as police officers and not as agents of the property owner, so their detention of the teenagers on suspicion of trespassing seemed unjustified.
These are not them. These are not them.
Would you like these gentlemen also trespass on the property?
We didn't have nothing to do with that. Yes. No, they had nothing to do with it. All right, man, get my.
Stand up.
It was taller boys who are probably already all gone because they knew that you were coming. They don't want to. That's what
Deal
I
with police.
said. Until he come out here.
Fair
enough, but when I walked in, he pointed to you
Yeah,
gentlemen.
man, that's all I wanted to come out. You got my name for nothing. You got my name for nothing.
You didn't want to come out.
It wasn't that hard for him to come out here and clear it up. He trying to put it in here because
Because you're not cooperating.
He's not doing his job
It's easy
right.
for me to control the
Not doing his
situation.
job right.
I am doing my job right.
What's your name, badge number? He was talking about. They was in there talking about gunplay with this dude, man. That's
Sure,
what I said,
and
y'all
when I
didn't
got
have nothing
here,
to do with it.
listen, when I got here,
Yeah.
he pointed to these gentlemen.
We told you it wasn't.
Okay.
The description that he gave.
I can't take your word for it when he pointed to you.
Furthermore, Indiana law does not have a stop and identify statute that mandates individuals to provide identification during criminal investigations. The statute requires individuals to provide identification to law enforcement officers, and that only applies when someone is stopped for an infraction or ordinance violation. This means that the officer's demand for identification lacked a legal basis.
He did. He pointed
He
to
was
you.
already in there,
He
bro.
pointed to
I
you.
don't want to hear
Okay.
your conversation.
That's
You
why
already in
Name
the
and badge
hole,
number,
bro.
please.
You trying to dig yourself out of the hole.
Isn't Elkhart policy for you to identify yourself to the public?
My guess is they probably already left
Okay.
because they all probably have their licenses.
That's fine.
And they drove off because they didn't want to deal with you guys.
The situation escalated further when one officer claimed that the hotel manager had misidentified the teenagers as the perpetrators of the disturbance. Despite the assertion from the bystanders that the detained teenagers were not involved, the officers seemed unwilling to reconsider their actions. The bystanders and teens remained composed, and with the intervention of the bystanders, the officers were eventually compelled to release the teenagers. Now let's take a look at another investigation. In a notable incident on June 12, 2020, a confrontation between an Amazon delivery driver named Deja Murphy and property owner Keith Miller in Lowell, Indiana, has brought to light the complexities of enforcing laws on private property. The incident, originally reported by the Times of Northwest Indiana and discussed on Lackluster's channel, involves issues related to traffic laws, private property rights, criminal confinement, and police authority. The situation unfolded when Miller, convinced that Murphy was speeding on his property, employed his truck to block her exit.
Good luck, buddy.
No. Bottom line is, I need your ID.
Sure.
You're going to pull your truck in your driveway.
Yep.
I'm going to get her information. I'm going to do a report, and we're going to go about our day.
I'm gonna get my wallet from my office.
Huh?
I'm gonna
No, you're not. You're going to just give me your name and information.
Oh, sure.
I'm going
You have me
I'm
write
not-
it down for you?
Yeah, I don't need. I'm not spending all day with
No.
it. This is
I
ridiculous.
asked, and we have since put cameras up. I just said,
What's your last
"Please slow
name?
down." Miller, Miller.
He proceeded to demand her identification, thereby initiating a tense standoff. Responding to Murphy's call, Officer John from the Lake County Sheriff's Department arrived at the scene. He clarified that he lacked jurisdiction to enforce speeding laws on private property, igniting a discourse on the distinction between public roads and private driveways. Indiana's legal framework underscores the limited jurisdiction of traffic laws on private property. State law specifies that highway regulations pertain to publicly maintained roads accessible for vehicular travel. In contrast, a private driveway, such as Miller's property, doesn't fall within this category. Therefore, Murphy's alleged speeding on the driveway couldn't be penalized as a traffic violation under Indiana law. However, exceptions do exist. In certain cases, police can enforce traffic rules on private property where the public's invited. This enforcement relies on local ordinances and agreements between property owners and law enforcement authorities. These provisions empower the police to regulate traffic and parking on private property under specific circumstances.
Thank you. Sorry. Pull forward. Okay, ma'am. I need your license.
Okay. And may I ask my name?
Because you called the police, he called the police,
Just make
and
sure. That's
I'm
all I wanna
called
know.
here. That's why I need your information. That's all the information I need. And he's upset because you were speeding.
But
I
y'all
told him
wasn't-
he couldn't do what he's doing.
And
And you're going to go on your way, and if you have any issues, you and your company can stop delivering here.
Okay.
How's that?
He came to my door. That's what bothered me. He came in my door, opened the door, told me to get the hell out my door.
While these local ordinances may not encompass the full scope of state traffic laws, they still grant authorities the capacity to uphold specific regulations. Miller's actions also raise questions about potential criminal charges. Officer Marshall suggested that his conduct might align with the crime of criminal confinement, defined as knowingly or intentionally restricting another person's liberty without consent.
That's harassment.
You know what? Let's stop.
Okay.
We're going to do a report. We're going to go about our day.
It's harassment, though.
Everything's everything. You know what?
That's harassment.
There'll be a report on file.
While Murphy's situation didn't precisely match this definition, it highlighted the broader issue of maintaining public safety and individual rights on private property.
To the prosecutor's office?
This is Lake County?
Yes. We'll give you a case number.
Yeah, I want the case number, too.
It'll be on the report, sir.
What's your name?
It'll be on the report. It's Marshall.
Marshall? Okay.
And tell your friend on the phone,
That's
I'm not
my
upset
friend.
with you.
That's my brother.
Oh,
That's my brother.
you know what?
You know where everything's going on? That's the only reason why I'm
Everyone's fine. We're here. I don't need your brother telling me my job and what we need to do. I think you need to get a hold of your supervisor and tell him
Oh,
what...
no, I already talked. She was
Okay.
on the phone when all of this
Get hold of your supervisor. What's the phone number you can reach that?
219-779.
The incident also touched on the concept of harassment. However, Indiana law defines harassment as involving communication with an intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person without legitimate communication. Because this definition doesn't cover in-person interactions, Miller's actions toward Murphy, while unsettling, might not fall within the legal definition of harassment. Fundamentally, the incident underscores the scope of police authority concerning private property and the need to strike a balance between individual rights and public welfare. Indiana's police power enables the state to enact reasonable restrictions on private property to ensure community safety, health, and morality. While the jurisdiction of traffic laws on private driveways remains limited, criminal violations, regardless of the location, can still lead to police intervention.